Good evening and welcome to our closing presentation on day 5 of Orkney International Science Festival online. And for this, we're going to go north to Faroe to find out how our fellow islanders cope with the challenges of linking one island to another. They build road tunnels under the seabed, and a third one has now been opened with a 3-way link requiring the construction of a subsea roundabout. And the effect is dramatic. It will cut travel time from over an hour to just 15 minutes. With us this evening is a welcome visitor, Teitur Samuelsen, Chief Executive of the company that owns the new tunnel. He was also in charge of its construction, and he's going to describe how the project was planned, organised and financed. Well, there is just so much to ask him. If you have a question, just enter it in YouTube's live chat. We'll be able to follow up at the end of the talk. But Teitur, we're looking forward very much to what you have to say. Welcome and over to you.
Thank you very much for inviting me to hold this presentation tonight. Yeah, my name is Teitur Samuelsen, and I am the CEO of this company. It's a state-owned company owned by the Faroese government that is doing the construction and operation of the two subsea tunnels. Yeah, just turn on next page. Yeah, the Faroe Islands. We are in the North Atlantic, north of Scotland, between Iceland and Norway. There it is. There are 18 islands on the Faroe Islands, and 52,000 people speaking our own language. We have our own culture, but we have a home ruled government. We are part of the Danish kingdom, but managing financing and have our own parliament and so on. The Faroe Islands is not part of EU, and the main industries in the Faroes are fishery, fish farming, especially farming of salmon is very important. Then we have some offshore services and a growing tourism. Next slide, please. Yeah, I'm going to tell you about this tunnel project, which consists of two subsea tunnels. First, the Eysturoy tunnel, which was built from 2017, and opened late 2020. And then about the Sandøy tunnel as well, that is under construction now. Yeah, it's a project with two subsea tunnels. You can see them on the map to the left on the presentation. These are the third and fourth subsea tunnels in the Faroe Islands. First, we have the Voa tunnel to the far right, no left, and then the Norja tunnel on the right side on the map. The Eysturoy tunnel will reduce the travel time to the capital Tórshavn for around 50 to 70% of the inhabitants in the Faroe Islands. There was a route today over the mountains, but this is an alternative route which is not so weather exposed and shorten the travel time significantly. The Sandøy tunnel is connecting the island of Sandøy to the main island Streymoy. There is a ferry sailing today, and when the tunnel opens in 2023, late 2023, the ferry will be abandoned. It was a political wish, and there is a political wish in the Faroe Islands to improve the infrastructure and connect all regions together, either by ferry or by subsea tunnels, as we have done over the last 20 years. Next slide, please. Yeah, the idea behind these tunnel projects is to create one large growth area around the main area, Tórshavn, Eysturoy, connecting those areas to the islands further away. And as I said, the Eysturoy tunnel will improve the infrastructure for around 70% of the inhabitants. And it will establish Runavík, which is the third largest city in the Faroe Islands, and Strendur as suburbs to the capital Tórshavn. And the financing behind this, have these two subsea tunnels in one company, is that the Eysturoy tunnel is expected to be commercial because there will be so much traffic in it, and use that tunnel to also finance the Sandoy tunnel, which is sub-commercial on a standalone basis because only 1,200 people live on the island Sandoy. Next slide, please. Yeah, as I said, it's a company, limited company, that owns the tunnels. It's owned by the government, the Faroese government. It was established in 2014, and the main goal of the company is to construct and operate these two subsea tunnels. First, we drilled the Eysturoy tunnel, and when we had a breakthrough of drilling the tunnel, then we started drilling the Sandoy tunnel. The share capital of the company is 400 million Danish kroner, around 50 million euros, which has been paid in by the Faroese government. Also, there will be a toll in the tunnels when you drive through them, and there's a government guarantee guaranteeing a minimum traffic or a minimum revenue, so that the company will always be able to service its debt. Yeah, and the law regarding these two tunnels and the company was approved by all parties in the Faroese parliament. So there's a very broad political will to do these tunnels. And the total budget for the tunnels is around 360 million euros. So it's a very big project in the Faroe Islands. Next slide, please. Yeah, the investment per capita in the Faroe Islands is around 7,000 euro. So it's a significant project. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is the tunnel line for the Eysturoy tunnel. It starts outside the capital Tórshavn on Quídanes, then it goes under the sea, and then it comes into Eysturoy, and there is a roundabout, so it's connecting two sites on this fjord. It's a fjord which is around 10 kilometers long. So it was a political will that both sides should be connected, and therefore this roundabout is in the tunnel. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is an animated picture of the roundabout before it was carried out. I will show you later how it looks like today. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is the Sandoy tunnel. It starts on the left. That's also outside the capital Tórshavn, where the ferry actually is sailing from today to Sandoy. It starts there, goes in on the land and down under the sea, and then over to Tríðardalur in Sandoy. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is the entrance on Streymoy outside the capital Tórshavn, where the tunnel starts, where the ferry sails from today. Next slide, please. Yeah, and this is the entrance on Sandoy, how it is planned to look like when the tunnel will be finished in 2023. Next slide, please. Yeah, we have organized the project. This is how it's organized. We are very few employees in the company. There is a board of directors, then it's me, the CEO, and then we have hired in a project manager, a site manager, and one responsible for health, safety, and environment. Then we have consultants, so it's a kind of a network organization. We have designers who have designed the roads, and then we have consultants designing the tunnel, We have geologists, engineers. Those are from the Faroese Geology Institute. Then we have hired in control engineers. And then the lenders who are financing the project, they have a technical advisor who is visiting the project around 2-3 times a year, a bit less now during COVID, but otherwise. And then we have other advisors, Sintef in Norway. It's a professor, Eivind Grøv, who's a professor in tunnel construction. Then other advisors, lawyers, insurance, and so on. Then we have a response group who will take care of the safety requirements. And then we have a dispute panel. That's very important. We have a dispute panel between us and the construction company, NCC. So we have selected one member in this board, and NCC have chosen one member, and then we together have appointed out a chairman. So all disputes between us and the contractor is put for this dispute panel, and they take a decision that we have agreed to follow. That's so how we don't end up in court if we disagree on something. And this is something which has worked very well. It's very quick to take decisions, and yeah, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but it's very good for the progress of the project that their quick decisions are taken quickly, so the construction can continue. Next slide, please. Yeah, due to the size of the project, we have been very much focusing on risk right from the beginning of the project to try to identify where the biggest risks are in the project, and then how we can mitigate and reduce these risks. So it's a big project also internationally in a small remote community. And as we saw it, the main risk was how to finance the project, because we have very good track records on how to do tunnels in the Faroe Islands. In the project, there's a very high financial gearing. We have a very high debt. So we think that, or we thought that the biggest risk within the project was the interest rate, because we have a very long construction time, 7 years from we start with the Eysturoy tunnel until the Sandøy tunnel is finished. And if we do a financing, like if we have a construction financing, which is quite normal to have during the construction period, and then another financing taking over when the project is finished, we would not know what the interest rate would be 7 years later after we started. So we have a financing where the interest rate is fixed from day one, which means in late 2016 until 2040. So we know exactly how much interests we will pay every year. Yeah, if the interest rates, for example, would increase by 1%, we had to have around 15% higher traffic in the tunnel. For every percent, the interest increases. So therefore, that we thought that was the biggest risk in the project. Of course, when you are doing subsea tunnels, geology is also a big risk, but we thought that we could handle that because we have, as I said, we have a very good track record on doing tunnels in the Faroe Islands. Another risk was that there's a reduced number of companies capable of constructing this type of tunnels, and we are doing it in accordance with the Norwegian standards. So there were maybe 10 companies in Scandinavia that were able to do the tunnel or the tunnels. Therefore, it was a risk how the interest was for them to do construction in the Faroe Islands. So we were out on a kind of a roadshow visiting these 10 companies, telling them about the project, and hoped that they had the appetite to give a bid when it was out for tender. And then, as I said, the geological risk. we have used the same experience or the experts that were on board for the construction of the 2 other subsea tunnels in the Faroe Islands, and have followed all their advices on which service that we should do. Next slide, please. Yeah, so we have carried out extensive geological surveys. We have traffic estimates for what the traffic was expected to be used using the tunnels when they were finished. We invited the companies to be pre-qualified to participate in the tender, and the main requirement was that they should have experience in doing subsea tunnels. And we focus very much on safety. We didn't want to try any new method of doing tunnels that we did not have any experience of in the Faroe Islands, because this is such a big project that we would not take that risk. And then we have had a 3-part review of everything regarding the project, so that to be sure that we were not doing any mistakes during the construction. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is the Eysturoy tunnel. It's compared to some big Scandinavian projects, and the Eurotunnel, the investment per capita. It's some time since I made this calculation, but as you can see, this is a very big investment per capita, around 7,000 euros, as I said. So it's a significant. I have not found any projects in other countries that is this big per capita. Next slide, please. Yeah. We have, as I said, the Eysturoy tunnel. It are the 3rd and 4th subsea tunnels in the Faroe Islands. The Voa tunnel, which was constructed around year 2000, costed less than 50 million. Yeah, this is in US dollars, 50 million US dollars. And the government paid in equity around 57% of the total project cost. So it was a quite small amount that they have to lend somewhere. And then the construction of the Noria tunnel, which was the total investment was a bit above 50 million US dollars. Around 59% came in as equity from the government. But if we look at the Eysturoy and Sandia tunnel, only 19% of the total investment is equity, which means that we have had to finance quite a lot to get the project carried out. So we have a very high financial gearing, and therefore it was so important for us that the interest rate was fixed from day one. Next slide, please. Yeah. The Voa tunnel was totally financed in the Faroe Islands. The Noria tunnel was totally financed in the Faroe Islands. But the Eysturoy and Sandia tunnel was such a big project that it was not possible to finance them in the Faroe Islands. Therefore, we had to go abroad to see where it was possible to finance them. So we had contact to several investment banks, international investment bank, to explore the financial market where it was possible to get financing, the cheapest financing, and also where it was possible to have a fixed interest rate from day one, as we identified it as the biggest risk to the project. So we made a big effort in exploring the financial market, both in Scandinavia, in Central Europe, in the UK, and also in America. And we saw that the cheapest financing was actually in the US. So we have some big pension funds financing the project, who are used to participate in in infrastructure project. Also, we have one large pension fund from the UK participating, and then some minor in the Faroe Islands, a very small part, but important anyway. Next slide, please. Yeah, and the timing was quite good for us. This is the Danish government bond, 10-year bond, and we see that the interest rate in 2014 to 2016 is decreasing. So the timing was very good. We got the financing in place in October, November 2016. So it was a very favorable interest rate at that time. Now the interest rate is a bit lower, but it was low at that time. So I think the timing was good. Next slide, please. Yeah. During the construction, probably the largest risk is the geological risk. So we have carried out all the surveys that was advised that we should do. We have been shooting different kind of seismic or collecting different types of seismic data. And then we have drilled cores, taken cores out of the underground and analyzed them. We have a known geology in the Faroe Islands. I will show you a table later of tunnels in the Faroe Islands. And we have used the same advisors in the other subsea tunnels. It's primarily Sintef, a research institution in Norway, and Jarfonje, the Faroese Geological Service. And then we have used the same design company for the tunnels. It is a consulting company called Norconsult in Norway. And the tunnels are designed in accordance with the Norwegian standards for how to do subsea tunnels. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is a geological map showing where the Eysturoy tunnel is going down onto the fjord. We can see the sea level, the blue line. Then there's around 60 meters of sea, and then around 80 meters of sediments, and then 42 meters of solid rock before we come down to the tunnel. So at the deepest point in the tunnel, around the deepest point, there is 42 meters of solid rock, and then 80 meters of sediments, and then 60 meters of seawater. And the deepest point is down on minus 189 meters. Next slide, please. Yeah, this table shows the tunnels in the Faroe Islands. We started doing tunnels in the Faroe Islands. The first one opened in 1963, the Hvalbiar tunnel. And then we carried on doing tunnels. And in 2002, the Voa tunnel opened, the first subsea tunnels, and then the Noria tunnel in 2006, and then the Eysturoy tunnel opened in 2019. So we have a very long track record for doing tunnels in the Faroe Islands, and I think all of them there's been no big issues with carrying out any of them. So that was also very important for the lenders, that we have a good track record in doing tunnels in the Faroe Islands. Next slide, please. Yeah, this table shows the 4 subsea tunnels. This Sander tunnel to the far right is not carried out yet, but we are doing the drilling at the moment, so I will come back to that. The Voa tunnel is just less than 5 kilometers long. The Noria tunnel is 6 kilometers, but the Eysturoy tunnel is 11.2 kilometers long, and the Sander tunnel will be 10.8 kilometers long. The lowest point in the Eysturoy tunnel is minus 187 meters, while the others are Voa tunnel 105 meters, Norra tunnel minus 150, and Sanda tunnel approximately the same. They have 2 lanes, one in each direction, and we are building, as I said, the tunnels in accordance with Norwegian standards, which means they are a bit different from what the EU requirements are. And the construction time for these 2 Eysturoy tunnel and Sanda tunnel is around 3 to 4 years, while the others are around 2.5 to 3 years due to they are shorter. And the expected vehicles in the Eysturoy tunnel is around 6,000 cars, while the Sanda tunnel is only around 350 to 400 cars. As I said, the Eysturoy tunnel will finance the Sanda tunnel partly, as there's more traffic in the Eysturoy tunnel. Next slide, please. Yeah, as I said, we have the same contractor as did the. We put it out for tender, and we got 2 bids from 2 companies with experience doing subsea tunnels, and the bids were very much on the same level in price. So there was a tough competition. NCC won the competition. NCC, it's a Nordic construction company, and it was the same company that did the Voa tunnel and the Norra tunnel as well. And some of the same people that did those tunnels are doing these 2 tunnels as well. So it's very good to have people with experience. It's one of the largest construction companies in Scandinavia. So that was very good as well, because they are financially strong. And due to the financing, the requirement in the financing, we made a fixed price contract with the NCC, where almost all costs are fixed, but there are some items variable. For instance, how much concrete we are injecting into the mountain to make the tunnel dry. Yeah. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is just the traffic development in the 2 other subsea tunnels, which are where you pay a toll as well for driving through them. We can see that the traffic is increasing every year. This is up to 2018. During the financial crisis in 2008, we can see that traffic didn't increase very much, but it didn't go down. And then during the corona, the traffic has gone some down, but it's picking up right away now when the society is opening again. Next slide, please. Yeah, status on the project today. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is here we have 3 pictures from the Eysturoy tunnel. The picture on the top to the left is of the roundabout. I think it's quite famous. It has been in the media all over the world. Then we have the portal to the left. No, sorry, to the right. And then the bigger picture is from the tunnel. You can see we have used a lot of lights in the tunnel. This is symbolizing the Faroese national flag, which is red, blue, and white. So the Eysturoy tunnel opened for traffic in the 19th December of 2020. The traffic is some lower than expected here in the first month, but it's steady increasing, and it might take some time until the traffic has picked up on the level that we expected. Today, it's around 5,000 cars using the tunnel every day, and it was expected that it would be a bit more than 6,000 cars, but it's increasing all the time. So hopefully it will be not too long until the traffic is as we expected. The construction went very well. Actually, the tunnel opened 6 months earlier than we expected in the long-term financial budget for the project. So it was very successful. the construction. Also, if we remember that we entered into the COVID in early 20, so we had almost a year left of construction, but it was possible to carry it out without any complications. Next slide, please. Yeah, these are just some pictures showing how it looks like in the tunnel before it was finished. This to the left is waterproofing, so that no water is coming down on the driving lane. And the other one is where we have is the building of the water reservoirs inside the tunnel, where water is running into before it's pumped out. Next slide, please. Yeah. To the right is the portal on Strendur, on Eysturoy, before it was finished. And to the left, the electricians are installing the lights in the tunnel. Next slide, please. Yeah, the status of the Sandoy tunnel. We have drilled 4 and 5 kilometers from each side of the tunnel. In total, we have drilled 9,319 meters this morning. It was that. And it's about 87% of the total drilling length. The picture to the right is not totally updated, so it's shorter between the blue lights actually, and it showed on there. We had some technical issues when updating it. We expect a breakthrough around New Year. We don't know if it will be before Christmas or just shortly after Christmas. And the Sandoy tunnel is expected to open for traffic late 2023. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is just how it looks. The construction site on the Sandoy tunnel looks like today. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is just how the drilling is carried out, and in the entrance on the Sandoy site. Next, please. Yeah, these are just the dates when the tunnels will be finished. The Eysturoy tunnel is finished, and the Sandoy tunnel, as I said, late 2023. Thank you very much. I think this was my presentation.
Well, it's absolutely fascinating. I've been sitting here with pen and paper doing some sums while you've been speaking. And most interesting, can I ask you, first of all, about the interest rate? Was there a feeling in Faroe that the record low global interest rates were really an opportunity to be taken advantage of?
I'm not sure. No, I don't think people were very much aware of that. I think we were lucky in the timing.
Do you think it actually, in other words, the will was there really to go ahead and make it happen?
Yes, definitely, because this is a project that has been on the way for many years. I think the first ideas started in 2003. And for a long time, it was a discussion whether it should be made especially the Eysturoy tunnel, should be carried out on a private basis, or the government should do the tunnel, because the Eysturoy tunnel is financial, possible to do from a private, as a private company, because it's generating so much revenue. So it is possible to do it on a private basis, but the Sandoy tunnel is sub-commercial. But then all the parties in the parliament agreed that by putting them both together in one company, they could use the Eysturoy tunnel to partly finance the Sandoy tunnel.
Question from Eric Walker, who asks about maintenance in the short, medium, and long term.
Yeah, the operation of the tunnel is not very expensive, and the maintenance is not that much. Of course, there is some maintenance cost, but not that much. In the long term, we have experience in the Faroe Islands that if we take Vågatunnel, for instance, the first year that they have put new asphalt on the road was now 20 years after it opened, and they have made some maintenance on the electrical installations, and then they do some, I think you call it grouting in English, every 5 years or something like that. But that's not a substantial cost compared to the investment in the tunnel.
Also, a question come in about air and oxygen and pollutants. Would there have to be quite a lot of air ventilation, pumping, and so on to keep the air fairly clean?
Yes and no. It depends on the direction of the tunnel. If we take Vågatunnelen, it has a very good natural ventilation. The Norra tunnel, both entrances are in the same, more or less in the same direction. So there's not a good ventilation. So the turbines have to be running quite significantly more than in the Vågatunnel. So we were very curious about how the ventilation would be in Eysturoy tunnel, but it seems like the ventilation is very good. So I expect that the operational cost of the tunnel, which will be far lower than we estimated, because it's such a good natural ventilation. So the turbines are running very little, not every day. For instance,
Josh Gould, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, just letting you finish, and to say Josh Gourley would like to know about community attitudes. At the start, when the idea was first mooted, how did the island that was going to be linked by the tunnel feel? Were they fairly unanimous that they wanted to be joined, or were there some people that were worried that maybe there would be changes to their way of life?
I think people were very positive. Yeah, people were overall very positive, but especially before the first subsea tunnel was carried out, people were, at least some, were very much in doubt whether it was possible to do it and what the cost would be and so on. But I think there are no people in the Faroe Islands today regretting that these tunnels have been carried out.
And previously, the link was roll-on, roll-off ferries, and indeed, going back in Orkney and Shetland to the late 60s, early 70s, when Faroe was developing Ro-Ro, that was seen as a model. As time went on, though, did people feel the limitations of a ferry link between islands?
Yes, it's much more flexible to have a subsea tunnel. You can drive anytime that you want, and it's also very important for the society, because the workforce is very flexible. So people can live on one island and work on another, both one way and the other way. So it has been very important for the companies in the Faroe Islands.
There was a phrase you used earlier, one growth area. And
Yeah.
Is it the case then that rather than the islands being satellites that are sent goods from Tórshavn, the capital, it's much more possible to start up a small business in an island and sell into that bigger market?
Yes, but yeah, maybe. But especially we have seen growing tourism, for example, and that has been very important, I think, for the more remote villages and so on, because you can have something for tourism there, while people are living on bigger hotels in Tórshavn, for instance. But it's also but also it's very important for people living out in the villages that they can drive to to a workplace and go home afterwards, instead of have to move from these villages.
Interesting. And one question is indeed about population. As a result of the tunnels, are you seeing population stability or even population growth in more remote areas?
Yes, I think we see at least it has stabilized, but we also see that the population increases. Yes.
Just asking a bit about the finance again. Roughly 360 million has got to be funded. So each year there's a mixture of capital being paid off and interest.
Yes. Yeah.
And
so actually during the construction time we only pay interest, and the first installment we have in 2022. Yeah, summer 2022. Yeah.
In terms of the nature of the rock, obviously when we talk about tunnels in Orkney, we're thinking of sedimentary rock, and you've got much harder rock. Generally, did the geologists feel that the rock you've got is particularly suitable for tunnels?
Yes, I think the rocks in the Faroe Islands are very good for doing tunnels. It's solid, but it's quite soft. So it's good because we use this drill and blast method. So I think as they have told us, that the rock in the Faroe Islands is very good to do tunnels. And yeah.
And how about the reaction to tolls? I guess the people would be used to paying on the ferries before. Were there any people who were a bit reluctant to pay the toll?
Yes, of course. People are reluctant, and some people think that the tolls are too high. So that is, you can say that is one of the, I wouldn't say problems, but that's one of the challenges with the Eysturoy tunnel, because there is an alternative route where you can drive. It takes half an hour more. So of course people are evaluating whether time is, the monetary value of time is. So some people choose to drive the say old way, using 30 minutes more and more petrol, while others are using the tunnel. But yeah.
Eric Walker wants to know about the experience from the first tunnels. To what extent was there a learning from the first tunnels, and so that the design of the later tunnels was influenced?
I don't think we have changed very much in the design. Of course, we have updated some things as it is 15 years between the two tunnels. But we have tried, especially with this project, we have tried to copy as much as possible from the two other projects, because they went well, very well. So we have used the same advisors, carried out almost the same geological surveys and so on. So and of course the Eysturoy tunnel there are some changes, but that's most related to that we built in accordance with Norwegian road standards, and they have developed over time.
And that figure right at the start of the population of the Faroes was interesting, 52,000. Now, remember back, quite a period back, that in Orkney and Shetland, we used to contrast our population, fairly static, with the increased population in Faroe. I think over the years, the population has risen quite substantially as a result of economic activity.
Yes, the population in the Faroes has increased quite significantly here lately, the last 10 years. So actually the presentation says 52,000, but the latest number is that we are 53,000 people in the Faroe Islands now. So it's increasing, and we have some challenges to get enough houses for people to live in at the moment. Yeah, and we have a very low unemployment rate. The unemployment rate is only 1.2% at the moment in the Faroe Islands.
And finally, you mentioned now the tunnel that's underway. Is that the last big challenge, or could there be more to come?
There are discussions going on with regards to a tunnel to Eysturoy, the most southern island, and a tunnel down to Eysturoy would be somewhere between 22 and 26 kilometers long. But no decision has been taken yet. It's still discussions whether that should be carried out.
Well, this is absolutely fascinating. I think a lot of people's minds are going to be doing some calculations, looking around in Orkney at distances between islands and the need in Orkney to replace the 30-year-old ferries. I'd like to thank you warmly for joining us. I hope this leads to more contact between Orkney and Shetland along the old Nordic routes, and we look forward to following the further success of the tunnels in the Faroe. I'd also like to thank the technical team behind the scenes. That's Rachel, Maha and David, all the people who've sent in questions, and indeed all the viewers. I would simply say that if you would like to join a discussion, well, the Festival Club has been underway for about a quarter of an hour and they'd enjoy seeing you there. And if you're thinking of joining us tomorrow morning, we're back at 10 o'clock when we'll hear a brief history of timekeeping. In the meantime, the time has caught up with us. So I'll simply say thank you again to Teitur, and from us all, goodbye for now.